The Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in downtown, sunny, bright, and warm Bob Cajun. I'm your host, Terry. My guest, Jim, is not in the studio for another day or so. Stay tuned. Great discussions coming up. In the meantime, talking about Volume 2. Volume 2? What about Volume 1? The Grace of Uncertainty is the title of Volume 1. That's my book. I'm still waiting for my ISBN number from the federal government. Whoa, did you hear that? That's a Lord Thundering Jesus, boy. Yes, that's the my best Newfoundland accent for the thunderstorm that is erupting this afternoon as I speak. And if there's a dog barking, it's because I'm house-sitting my daughter's dog, and so I'm not sure how he will respond to the thunder. So he is inside the house, and I'm waiting for him to to react to the thunderstorm. In the meantime, I will continue to podcast. So here we go. Volume 1, The Grace of Uncertainty, waiting for an ISBN from the federal government of Canada. Apparently, they're nearly processing the week that I applied for my ISBN number way back at the beginning of June. Yeah, that's how many people, I guess, retired types looking to publish their own stuff, just like me. And it seems that there's it's jamming up the works. I don't know if they're going to have to hire more people to process these applications or what, but I'm waiting still. All the text is done. There's a final edit still to come. And the overview is, of course, found on my podcast website, my T. Wigmore on YouTube. And you can locate that by going to my Wix site and clicking on podcasts, and you'll find a link to my podcast, where I discuss the book over the last couple of years and what I've done with that. I'm interested in Volume 2. Where to go once you exit faith and you land with humanism as your anchor. It's now morality without divine command. It's now just doing good for goodness sake. Sounds like a Christmas song. Oh, you better watch out. Yeah, okay. Let's remove the threat of eternal conscious torment, ECT. Let's remove the motivation of it's my Father's house and the motivation for the mansions in heaven. Or as my good friend Jim posits in his album, which I have right here to my side. Oh no, Jim, where did your album go? The art cover is hand-drawn, and it's not a mansion. It is more like a hut. And actually, I think the word for mansions has been misquoted and mistranslated. It's really just a room. It's not even a structure. It's an esoteric concept of there's a space for you somewhere. Or as the children's chorus we used to teach in Sunday school, somewhere in outer space, God has prepared a place for those who trust Him and obey. Okay, not to make too much fun of it, because I love children's choruses and I love language that motivates children, easy mnemonics, easy imagery to remember. But we do have a problem when ideas get stretched beyond recognizable boundaries. That's not bordering on nutso, but it is taking something that should be defined by the language. Language evolves, concepts evolve. So let's roll it back as much as we can. We used to say that the Bible was inerrant and infallible in the autographs. The autographs, none of which exist that we've found, but as I point out in my Josh McDowell, Volume 2, Evidence That Demands a Verdict, there's a lot of stuff that's changed in 50 years of digging. 50 years of digging, literally and metaphorically. Literally in archaeology in the Middle East, and metaphorically in the textual criticism, including the notion that even Josh McDowell was a victim of textual fraud. Not, I don't think, directly from the likes of Wes Huff, but the fraud was discovered when he claimed he had an actual Isaiah scroll remnant in his possession for his museum. And our own Canadian, Kip Davis, who I quote often in my Volume 1, has done an analysis of those fragments and determined them to be modern forgeries. How does a modern forgery get past the apologist of today? It's easy when you want something so much to be true, like Dorothy clicking her heels 3 times. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. Well, if you believe it so intensely, it will cause you to start seeing things that aren't necessarily there. I have landed on the humanist side of life. Maybe there's a song in there. But I am looking for something different when I look at Volume 2. I've seen this concept of non-duality, that's, the eternal oneness, and we're all part of the same thing. We're all stardust. We are golden. But I'm looking at an intersection, or maybe a hybrid model. I think Stay Spiritual interviewed Britt Hartley, I think her name is, and it was an interesting episode, but it got me thinking about dualism, and trying to merge those two ideas. So I've sort of sketched this out in this way. Volume 2, Finding the Grace of Uncertainty, Moving Beyond Dogma, is looking at investigating the human condition. That means who we are as a species on this planet through the intersection of non-dual dualism and empathy. The central argument of this book, I hope, will show that rigid binaries, this or that, the certainty versus doubt, the dogma versus deconstruction, the us versus them, that those binaries fail to capture the lived experience, the reality of human existence. Instead, I'm hoping to develop a framework built on dualism, acknowledging the distinct perspectives and tensions, the differences, without collapsing that all into a destructive polarization or a forced synthesis. Those are the two extremes that I wish to navigate between. Can I find that thread and thread the needle between destructive polarization, which I think is going on right now in America, in the West, in many places in Europe, and this forced synthesis where we have to buy into non-duality? And I'm not sure that we should, because none of that is verifiable. And this is where the tension arises. Science friction is how I colloquially call this stuff. I tend to lean towards that which I can prove through evidence or fact or develop through the scientific method, not through philosophy as much, because that is, oftentimes anyway, internal or intrinsically developed. It's what I feel. Feelings, nothing more than... Yeah, I'm not sure that works as a reliable guide to anything, although you can train your spidey senses to detect yes, the BS detector, or you can train your mind to apprehend false claims. But that is developing the critical thinking, and not too many people have time to become critical thinkers, and we don't develop it enough in our high school curriculum. Although, personally speaking, as a teacher of the philosophy classes, grade 12 and OAC, grade 11, 12, and OAC, I can say that it was fascinating to see how much latitude there was towards teaching critical thinking skills and working with documents and trying to show through modeling how we can determine and detect what is false from what is real. So I'm sort of wrestling with those two poles. Destructive polarization, the MAGA on the right and communists on the left, and finding our way in between to that happy middle where most of us are more than willing to help our neighbor, to help the person crossing the street, to open the doors for the needy, to give to the poor, etc. And we don't want to be forced into this esoteric, memby-pemby, oh, look, we're all cosmic. It doesn't matter. We're all going to go to the same place anyway. Well, okay. I'm not sure about that either. So by anchoring my volume 2 into the structural view, which I will call, let's use a Trump term, radical empathy. Not radical left, not progressive, radical empathy. And if you were a Christian, I would say that you should become a Jesusian and take a look at the teachings of, well, maybe not all of them, but most of them, of Jesus. Become a Jesusian, and that's where I'd say I can firmly plant a flag, not buying into the Christology and the blood and the Garden of Eden. I'll get on to more of that, but how about that? Non-dual dualism guided by a structure of radical empathy. Wow. Can we buy into that one? Maybe. Stay tuned, The Jim and Terry Show, Volume 2, The Grace of Uncertainty.